As you all know that this year we are commemorating the 50th year of our glorious and very comprehensive victory over Pakistan in 1971. And I too took some part in that as a bomber pilot. So I used to fly the Canberra aircraft. The Canberra is a twin jet engine aircraft with a crew of 2, which is a pilot and a navigator. So we could carry 8 bombs of 1,000 pounds each, and this aircraft could also be configured to carry 4 machine guns of 30 millimeter caliber. Another role for this was that a photo reconnaissance aircraft to bring back pictures of the targets. It was crewed by 2 crew, a pilot and a navigator. The navigator had an equally important part to play to navigate to the target and back, and also the bomb aiming device was with him when he was sitting up there in the nose cone, and he is the one who will track properly, guide the pilot, and then release the bombs all by himself. And so our location when I was posted in number 35 Squadron Pune was such that we would be asked to concentrate mainly on the 4 targets in and around Karachi. These targets were 2 of the airfields, that was at Mauripur and Rig Road, being used by the Air Force and also by the air element of the Navy. The third one was the Karachi harbour of the Pakistan Navy, and we also got to bomb the huge oil storage tanks along the seashore. And a couple of times, as I remember, we also had to go up north. That was because after the famous Battle of Longewala, where the Pakistanis lost a number of their tanks, the intelligence reports came in that they were planning to move the remnants of their armor by tank transporters by rail. We in 35 Squadron, we were tasked to go up north near the Sindh and West Punjab border and blow up that railway line at a number of places, which we did very successfully. Our Canberra sister squadrons were located in Agra up north and also towards east, closer to the East Pakistan border. We, as we said, carrying 8 bombs for each aircraft, and each squadron had 16 aircraft, which would not go together, but in a stream with a long gaps of a few minutes each between each. So that is how we used to keep them busy the whole night, whichever target we went to. And all these squadrons did an equally commendable job. So then if I talk about the effect of all that effort, you can imagine whichever target we picked for the night, with a stream, we will keep them awake and sitting in trenches the whole night. So they couldn't have been possibly very effective the next day. Also, the civilian population around the target would see all of us coming along there the whole night unchallenged, and they must be wondering where is their own Air Force. So the morale of the civilian population is equally important because they have to support their war effort from their side. So if our technique, the defenses on the other side I can mention is the radar stations to detect the incoming aircraft, alert their fighter force to go up, intercept and shoot us down, and also a number of anti-aircraft guns placed around the target. And our technique employed was such that we would go across only by night and at very low level to avoid detection. And approaching the target, we will pull up to our bombing height of about 7,000 feet, track and identify the target and drop the bombs accurately, and then get down once again to low level and run for home, which we did successfully most of the time. So, if I mention my own role during the war, if you look at me now, at this age and in this shape, you will definitely wonder, okay, how could I fly at night at treetop level and also keep on looking off and on at the map which used to be strapped to our right thigh, and that too in a very dim light in the cockpit, because the light in the cockpit had to be kept dim so that we can look outside and see clearly. But say 50 years ago, it was possible for me to do all that. And later on, the effect of all our effort, I had the occasion to get an independent witness. When I was later with Air India based in Bombay, one of my nephews who was with the Indian Navy, one evening he brought along a friend from the Bangladeshi Navy. And after being introduced, he told me that in 71 he was based at Karachi as part of the Pakistan Navy, and he gave me all the accurate information of effect of our bombing, which I had mentioned earlier. So the effort of our squadron was appreciated by award of Veer Chakra to 3 pilots and 2 navigators. I was one among those 3 pilots. So then see the way it was building up in East Pakistan after the crackdown by the army against their own Bengali friends there. It was such that we expected a full-scale war would break out any day. And I remember that on the 3rd of December, I was planning to go for a movie along with my wife and 2 small kids to a theatre which was located within our own Air Force base. I got into the car along with the wife and kids and started moving towards the gate of my bungalow. Just at that time, Air Force vehicle came and stopped exactly outside my gate. I got out of the car, but before I could give a peace of mind to the driver, my neighbor, who was a Air Force doctor, and his wife, they came out to their lawn and told us across the hedge that they just heard on the radio that Pakistan Air Force has attacked our forward bases up north along the border. So I knew that this is no exercise, this is going to be the real thing. So I reversed my car back into the garage, said a quick goodbye to the wife, and got into that Air Force vehicle alongside the driver. As we reached our underground operations room, the other pilots and navigators also started trooping in. And as we gathered, our base commander, Air Commodore Dilbagh Singh, who later was the Air Chief, he came onto the rostrum and announced that the target for that night for us was the Moripur Air Base at Karachi. So after the other briefings, we got down to marking our maps and then took off one by one. We had planned to land en route to one of our Air Force bases close to the border so that we could top up the fuel tanks, and then after attacking the target, we could get back straight to our base at Pune. So I, among others, landed there at Jamnagar. After refueling, when I started the engines. In the cockpit, I saw a red light glowing, indicating that the generator was not charging. I couldn't have gone by night with that. So I left the aircraft on parking brakes with both the engines running and slipped out of the cockpit. I knew where the electronic bay was there on the right side. So I went there. That bay was covered and locked with a cover with studs. You would need a screwdriver to open those studs. Now, where to get a screwdriver at that time? The other way we had been taught was to do that by a coin. Now, before leaving the base, all of us used to be issued one loaded revolver and a packet of Pakistani currency. So I looked into that packet, and to my good luck, I saw some coins. They had been left there thoughtfully, maybe that if we got shot down over their territory, we may be able to use even those coins as a bus fare or whatever to escape. I pulled out one of those coins, and with that I opened the studs and put my hand inside the electronic bay, and sure enough, the circuit breaker of that generator had popped out. That circuit breaker was something like our circuit breaker for the air conditioner at home. So, and I tried to set it in with increasing force, but it won't budge. I was standing there in frustration with, you can imagine, with those two jet engines screaming away at high pitch and feeling frustrated. So I didn't know what to do. So in sheer desperation, I clenched my fist and gave one mighty whack onto that circuit breaker, and lo, it set in. I was so happy that I won't have to live with this thought that the very first mission which was allotted to me, I couldn't complete that. So I closed the panel quickly, got inside the cockpit. Now each one of us in the stream were allotted the exact minute at which our bombs should be falling over the target. That was making sure that by night we don't telescope into each other, the stream. So that time was getting very close. So I said, now what to do? By trying to once again strap on the parachute and also the seat harness with the lap straps and very complicated shoulder straps, I said that'll take a lot of time. So I said to hell with it. I just released the parking brakes, lined up on the runway, and off I went. So there. Now, while leaving for that first attack, our apprehension was there, not for our own safety, but whether in the total blackout conditions, whether we will be able to see the target or not. But luckily, as we approached closer to the target, they had already set up the anti-aircraft gun envelope over the target. So put the maps away and aimed straight for that hellfire. And getting closer, pulled up to us bombing height, and there the runways of that airfield were shining away in the moonlight. So we were able to track in and bomb very accurately. Thereafter, we got down once again. Our attacks there at Karachi were mostly from north to south. So after the attack, after clearing that ACAC envelope all wrong, we would get down once again to the sea level over the Arabian Sea and then make a run for home. So that we did that night. So this carried on for a few days because initially there was sufficient moonlight for us to see the targets. But later on, the dark phase of the moon came in. There we had to employ a little different technique. In this, the lead aircraft in the stream would be called a pathfinder. Now that one would, when they estimated that they are somewhere over the target, the leader would release a dozen odd night flares. These flares, after lighting up, could light up the whole area like daylight. These flares would go down, floating down slowly on small parachutes. Now, seeing the target very clearly, this leader would make one circuit and this time aim one target indicating bomb onto the target. And that target indicating bomb would be our target for the bombers following. I happened to be the lead bomber that day. So I saw when approaching the target that the flares opened up. Then the leader turned and dropped the bomb, target indicating bomb. But to my horror, that target indicating bomb happened to be a dud. My heart really sank. I said the effort of the whole squadron following would go waste that night. But as I got closer over the target, one of these night flares floating down touched onto something lying in the Karachi harbor. This attack was against the harbor. So there it touched something inflammable and lit it up. A small fire came up. I saw that, so I also did another quick circuit and aimed my bomb on that. Now, I wanted to transmit that information onto the other bombers who were following behind. But the Pakistanis had managed to crack our radio frequency on which we were operating that night, and they jammed it. And how? By playing a song. To this day, I remember that tune, which was a beautiful ghazal by their melody queen, Noor Jahan. So I was feeling frustrated, but I kept on circling there and waited for that 3-minute song to be over. I immediately transmitted that information about the target to the bombers who were following. But by then I had got so angry, though I let off the choicest abuses in English, Urdu, and my own Punjabi. So after that, doing the job, I carried on, got down and but what happened was, because I was hanging around over the target for some time, which is not very healthy for a bomber pilot, they managed to alert one of their fighters from the Moripur Air Base close by and put him behind me. We used to have a small, receiver in the tail, fitted in the tail, which could warn us about if anyone was following us. I got that warning in my earphones. Now I carried on some violent maneuvers to left, right, and started diving once again down to the Arabian Sea, which was enough to shake off that fellow. And so I made it safely back home that night. So this nightly routine carried on for quite some time till on 16th of December, we heard that 93,000 of their soldiers in the east had surrendered and the war there had come to an end. That evening, on the Pakistan radio, we heard General Yahya Khan, who was the dictator at that time, and also Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, declaring that in the West, they will carry on the war for 1,000 years. But the very next day, they also sued for peace, and the war finally came to an end. So I and my other colleagues that evening were preparing for an attack over to the two economic targets, that was the gas fields at Sui and also the Sukkar Dam across the Indus River. But those raids were called off. So we came back home and immediately gathered in our officers' mess along with our wives. And for once, even the ladies were permitted in the bar, which was always a male bastion. So, but while we were celebrating our victory, we were also left to mourn the loss of some of our colleagues who never made it back safely. And we came to know that some of them had been captured alive when they were shot down and came with a parachute down safely. But what happened was they were never declared as prisoners of war, although some independent sources had mentioned that they had been rotting in their jails forever. That is the price we had to pay for that victory. My salute goes to those colleagues who paid the ultimate price with their life. I salute them. Jai Hind.
For the Indian Navy, it was a coming of age, a baptism by fire, an opportunity to take the war to the enemy. The task for the Navy was clearly defined in the message from the Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Nanda. The commander on the western seaboard, Vice Admiral S.N. Kohli, was directed to send a bold and spirited naval force into harm's way to destroy enemy units and harbour installations. The units chosen for this task were the newly commissioned Osa-class missile boats of the 25th Missile Vessel Squadron. Though designed for coastal defence, these missile boats packed a formidable punch if deployed audaciously with ingenuity and daring, and emphasis on surprise and perfect timing. What followed became a glorious chapter in the history of the Indian Navy. Due to their limited endurance, the missile boats were towed up to a certain point just south of Karachi harbour, from where they could proceed at full speed to carry out an attack and disperse thereafter. The crew of these missile boats had just returned after training in the erstwhile USSR and were fluent in the Russian language. All tactical communication during the mission was undertaken in Russian, adding to the deception in case the enemy intercepted the communication. The ships headed north in an arrowhead formation, hugging the Saurashtra coast before breaking out. Their objective? To set Karachi harbour ablaze. Just about 40 miles from Karachi, INS Nirghat reported a radar contact at a distance of 25 miles. The contact was evaluated to be a warship and Nirghat was ordered to engage.
इस समय उन्होंने कराची तट पर गश्त करके पाकिस्तानी जहाज देखा। यह पाकिस्तानी विध्वंसक समुद्री जहाज PNS खैबर था। बाई ओर स्थित INS निर्घट ने हमले की जिम्मेदारी ली। उनकी पहली मिसाइल खैबर के दाईं ओर लगी। जहाज के इंजन कक्ष का एक हिस्सा नष्ट हो गया। धुएं के बीच जो कुछ हुआ उससे अनजान पाकिस्तानी नाविकों ने एक आपातकालीन संदेश भेजा कि उन पर दुश्मन के विमान ने हमला किया है। पाकिस्तानी नौसेना को यह भी नहीं पता था कि हमला कहां से हुआ है। PNS खैबर पर दागी गई अगली मिसाइल ने इंजन के पास बॉयलर को भी नष्ट कर दिया। बचाव का मौका दिए बिना लगभग 200 नाविकों के साथ जहाज डूब गया।
Pakistani destroyer Khyber was hit with the Indian Navy's first shot of the war. Nirghat had drawn first blood. Nipat and Veer continued steering north.
इस बीच INS वीर के रडार पर पाकिस्तानी बारूदी खोज वाले PNS मुहाफिज की मौजूदगी का पता चला। INS वीर ने तुरंत पाकिस्तानी जहाज पर 2 मिसाइल दागे। इस बार आपातकालीन संकेत दिए जाने से पहले PN मुहाफिज पूरी तरह से नष्ट हो गया। जहाज समुद्र की सतह पर आग लगा हुआ लगभग 70 मिनट तक तैरता रहा। इसके अलावा संयुक्त राष्ट्र अमेरिका से पाकिस्तान तक सहायता ले जाने वाले एक मालवाहक जहाज MVNS चैलेंजर और पाकिस्तानी नौसेना के एक और विध्वंसक PNS शाहजहां पर हमला किया गया और नष्ट कर दिया गया। इस समय आईएनएस निपात कराची के तट से केवल 22 मील की दूरी केमारी के तेल टैंकर पर एक मिसाइल दागी गई। इतिहास में पहली बार एक जहाज की तबाही मिसाइल जमीन पर एक केंद्र के उद्देश्य से दागी गई। तेल की टंकी में जोरदार धमाका हुआ और आग पास के टैंकों तक फैल गई। कराची बंदरगाह में कुछ ही देर में जो धमाका हुआ वह बहुत ही भीषण था। लंबे इंतजार के बाद मुंबई के रेडियो स्टेशन पर एक संदेश मिला, अंगार। यह मिशन सफल रहा।
Just before midnight, Nipat launched a missile towards the harbour entrance and scored a direct hit, setting the Kiamari fuel tanks and other harbour facilities ablaze. A fire that took 4 days to extinguish. The Chief of Naval Staff signalled, Operation Trident a success, Karachi ablaze. I am proud of you. This was swiftly followed up by Operation Python as the second wave of attacks.
भारतीय नौसेना ने पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ कराची में इस तरह से जवाबी कार्रवाई का फैसला किया कि वह फिर कभी दूसरे हमले का सपना भी नहीं देख सके। 8 दिसंबर को हुए इस हमले में नौसेना के मिसाइल बोट आईएनएस विनाश, आईएनएस तलवार और आईएनएस त्रिशूल भी शामिल थे। भारतीय सैनिकों द्वारा एक ब्रिटिश जहाज सहित 2 मालवाहक जहाजें और एक पाकिस्तानी बेड़े के टैंकर पीएनएस ढाका को भी बर्बाद कर दिया गया था। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान के ईंधन भंडार को भी क्षति पहुंचाई गई। भारतीय हमले से शिपयार्ड और वेयरहाउस सहित $3 मिलियन का भी भारी नुकसान हुआ। पाकिस्तानी सेना की तबाही होने से पश्चिमी तट पर उनके संचालन में भी गतिरोध आ गया।
The total annihilation of ships and harbour facilities completely unnerved the Pakistani Navy. In a panic, they recalled all their major surface combatants to harbour. The success of these attacks had a dramatic effect on the war. The Indian Navy had accomplished the assigned task in style, and within the next few days of the war, a naval blockade was also imposed. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the heroic actions of the naval units led by the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant ensured that the Indian Navy achieved control of the seas around both wings of Pakistan and scored an emphatic victory at sea. The country finally tasted triumph when General A.K. Niazi capitulated on the Eastern Front and signed the Instrument of Surrender on the 16th of December 1971. The stunning success of the Indian Navy's Operation Trident brought glory to the service, and the 4th of December is fittingly commemorated as the Navy Day, the day when Karachi was set ablaze.